English Sing-Sing. Beauty and the Beast. Once upon a time, there lived a kind girl named Belle who lived with her father. One day, Belle's father asked Belle,
Belle, what should I bring back from work?
She said, just a single rose. On his way home, Belle's father met a serious storm and landed near a castle. He went in and ate all the delicious foods on the table. He went outside once the storm stopped. In the garden, he saw a beautiful rose and picked it out. Just then, the beast appeared.
Who's taking my precious rose? Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. It's for my daughter. If you want to live, bring that daughter.
Belle's father came home and told Belle what happened. Belle had no choice but to go to the castle alone. Belle was scared of the beast at first. But as time passed by, she started to sense his warm heart. He gave her everything she needed: delicious food, many books, and beautiful flowers. They started falling in love. However, little by little, Belle started missing her father. Beast allowed her to visit him one time. At home, Belle had such a great time with her father. After realizing that she stayed home for too long, Belle went back to see Beast. There, she saw Beast passed out on the ground. Regretting not coming earlier, Belle shed tears of love. At that moment, Beast disappeared and suddenly a very handsome prince appeared. The prince told Belle that he was put on a spell that could only be broken by true love. Belle and the prince got married and lived happily ever after. Fairy tale: The Little Mermaid. There once lived a king of the Sea Kingdom. He had 6 daughters, all beautiful mermaids. Princess Ariel, the youngest daughter, was very curious. When Ariel was 15 years old, she went up to the surface of the water. She saw a handsome young prince standing on the deck of a ship. She fell in love with him. One stormy night, the young prince fell off the ship. Ariel saved his life. But he didn't know that. Back home, Ariel missed him a lot. But there was no way for a mermaid to love a human. She went to the witch and begged for help. The witch gave Ariel human legs, but Ariel had to give up her voice. Moreover, Ariel would become bubbles if the prince married another woman. She came back up on land as a beautiful human girl. She was found by the prince and invited to the palace. But the prince was going to marry the princess of a neighboring country. Ariel was very sad but couldn't say anything. The night before the wedding, Ariel's mermaid sisters appeared. They gave her a knife, telling her to kill the prince. Ariel went into the prince's room with the knife, but she couldn't kill him. She turned into bubbles. This was the sad love story of a mermaid who loved a prince.
Peter Pan. Once in London, there lived 3 children: Wendy, John, and Michael. One night, Peter Pan and the fairy Tinker Bell flew into the house through the window. Wendy was surprised. Peter Pan said he came to get his shadow back. Wendy helped him tie his shadow back to his shoes. Peter Pan told Wendy that he was living in Neverland, a dreamland for children who lost their parents. Peter Pan invited Wendy and her brothers to come to Neverland with him. With Tinker Bell's magical fairy dust, they could fly. Besides the Lost Boys, there were also bad pirates and their captain, Captain Hook, in Neverland. When Wendy and her brothers were wandering around Neverland, Captain Hook captured them. Peter Pan flew to Captain Hook's pirate ship to save them just in time. He started a sword fight with Captain Hook. Tick-tock, tick-tock. At that moment, a ticking sound was heard from below. It was coming from an alligator that once swallowed Captain Hook's arm and his watch. Clang, clash, clang, clash. After a long fight, Captain Hook fell off the ship from Peter Pan's finishing stroke. The alligator, waiting there, immediately swallowed him. At last, the children returned home to London, leaving Peter Pan to his everlasting boyhood.
Fairy tale. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a pretty girl named Cinderella. When she was young, her mother died. Her father remarried a pretty but bad woman. She brought 2 of her daughters into the family. Her stepmother and stepsisters treated Cinderella like a maid. Cinderella had to do all the housework. She only wore dirty clothes. One day, the prince's birthday invitation came. A ball was to be held in the castle. The stepmother and stepsisters dressed up and went to the ball. Left alone at home, Cinderella cried. Suddenly, her fairy godmother appeared. She turned a pumpkin into a carriage, rats into horses, and a lizard into a driver. She also dressed Cinderella in a beautiful dress. Lastly, she gave her glass slippers. The fairy godmother told her to come back before 12 o'clock midnight. Cinderella went to the ball and danced with the prince. It was 12 o'clock midnight. Cinderella hurried down the stairs as one of her glass slippers fell off her foot. The prince found it, and his men searched from door to door for the owner of the glass slipper. Finally, it fit one girl. She was Cinderella. Cinderella and the prince got married and lived happily ever after. Fairy tale. Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Once upon a time, when white snow was falling, a princess as white as snow was born. Her name was Snow White. Sadly, her mother, the queen, died of an illness soon after. Her father, the king, got married again. The new queen was pretty but wicked. She was a witch. She asked the magic mirror every day, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror always replied,
"My queen, you are the fairest."
But one day, the mirror answered that Snow White was the fairest of the kingdom. Jealous and angry, the queen ordered a hunter to kill Snow White. However, the hunter couldn't kill Snow White, so he left her in the forest. While wandering around, Snow White found a small house with 7 chairs, 7 plates, 7 beds, and so on. It was the 7 Dwarfs' cottage. When the dwarfs returned home, they were surprised to find Snow White. But they decided to let her stay. Meanwhile, the queen found out where Snow White was living. The queen disguised herself as an old woman selling apples. She came to Snow White and gave her a poisoned apple. As soon as Snow White bit into the apple, she fainted. The dwarfs were so sad. They thought she was dead and put her in a glass coffin. One day, a handsome prince was passing through the forest and saw Snow White in the coffin. He leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. At that moment, she opened her eyes. The 7 dwarfs called out,
Hooray!
Everyone was happy. The prince took Snow White to his palace, and they lived happily ever after.
Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel lived in a cottage with their father and stepmother. Their nasty stepmother said,
Your children eat too much.
One night, their stepmother told their father to abandon them in a forest. Overhearing this, Hansel gathered white pebbles. Their father left Hansel and Gretel in the middle of the deep forest. They followed the white pebbles that Hansel had dropped and came back home. Their stepmother got mad and made their father do it again. This time, Hansel dropped breadcrumbs. But the birds ate all the breadcrumbs. Hansel and Gretel lost their way and wandered through the forest. While wandering, they found a gingerbread house made of sweets. A chocolate roof, candy bar windows, and bread walls. They soon were eating delicious chunks off the house. But the owner of the house was an evil witch. The witch locked Hansel in a cage and ordered Gretel to feed him a lot of food. Thinking of eating a fat boy, the witch checked Hansel's arm to see if he had gotten fat. But clever Hansel noticed that the witch had very bad eyesight. So he stuck out a thin bone instead of his arm.
Why is he still so thin?
The witch wondered. The impatient witch ordered Gretel to heat up the oven to bake Hansel.
I don't know how to do it. Would you show me?
Gretel asked. The witch peeked into the oven to show Gretel.
This is my chance.
Gretel thought. Gretel pushed the witch inside and slammed the oven door shut. That was the end of the witch. Now rich and free, Hansel and Gretel lived happily ever after.
Fairy tale.
The Little Match Girl. It was a snowy winter night. A poor little girl was walking around the street selling matches. She was dressed in shabby clothes and had no shoes on.
Matches. Please buy my matches.
She was very cold and hungry, but no one bought a single match. She approached a window where warm light was coming out. Inside there was a beautiful Christmas tree, a fireplace, a table full of delicious food, and the happy laughter of families sitting around. The girl was very sad. Tired of being cold and hungry, the girl took out a pack of matches and lit it. At that moment, she saw a fireplace with warm flames coming out. But soon, the match light went out, and the fireplace went away. The girl lit a second match. Delicious food appeared in another bright light. Cake, meat, soup. The girl stretched her hand toward the plate. But the match light went out again, and the girl was back in the dark. The girl sighed and lit a third match. This time, the girl's grandmother appeared.
Oh, Grandma, I've missed you so much. Take me with you.
Grandma nodded with a bright smile. The next morning, people found the girl dead on a street corner. They felt sorry for her, but they didn't notice a faint smile around her mouth.
Fairy tale. Jack and the Beanstalk. A long, long time ago, a boy named Jack lived with his mother. They were very poor, so Jack's mother told Jack to sell their only cow. On the way to the market, Jack met a mysterious old man. He showed Jack magic beans. Jack traded his cow for the beans and came back home. Jack's mother got angry. She threw the beans out the window. The next morning, Jack saw a huge green pillar going up into the sky. It was a beanstalk.
Wow, they were real magic beans.
Jack climbed up the beanstalk. Above the clouds, there was a giant in a big castle.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell a human boy.
After hiding, Jack stole the giant's gold coins. He went up again. Jack stole a chicken that laid golden eggs. He went up one more time. This time, Jack took a magic harp. At that moment, the harp started playing and the giant woke up. He ran after Jack, shouting,
Get him!
Jack quickly climbed back down the beanstalk. He chopped down the beanstalk with an axe. The giant fell to the ground and died. From then on, Jack never went back to the castle again. Fairy tale. Little Red Riding Hood. There once lived a sweet little girl in a small village. On her birthday, she received a cape with a red hood from her grandmother. She liked it so much that she always wore it. People called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said, "Little Red, your grandmother is sick. Take these cookies to her. Go straight without looking away." Walking through the forest, Little Red met a wolf.
"I'm visiting my grandmother because she's sick."
Oh, really? Then how about giving her some flowers too?
When Little Red was busy getting some flowers, the wolf ran to her grandmother's cabin and knocked on the door.
"Who's there?"
asked Grandma.
It's me, Little Red.
The wolf pretended.
"You sound strange."
It's because I caught a cold.
Believing it, Grandma opened the door, and the wolf swallowed the poor old lady whole. The wolf put on Grandma's clothes and got into her bed. Little Red arrived and said,
"Grandma, I brought your favorite snacks."
Oh, thank you, dear.
"But your voice is different. What's wrong?"
It's just because I'm sick.
"Well, why are your ears so big?"
To hear your voice better.
"Why is your mouth so big?"
To swallow you up.
At the moment, the wolf gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood. Now that he was full, the wolf fell asleep, snoring loudly. A passing hunter heard it and stepped into the house. Noticing the wolf's giant belly, he thought,
This wolf must have eaten people. I must save them.
The hunter cut open the wolf's belly. Surprisingly, Little Red and her grandmother popped out. They took a lot of stones, put them in the wolf's belly, and sewed it shut. The wolf woke up feeling very heavy. He ran away in pain. Fairy tale. The Ant and the Grasshopper. In the green meadow lived an ant and a grasshopper. The ant was always busy working hard. But the grasshopper just sang and played the guitar in the shade. One summer day, the grasshopper saw the ant carrying heavy pieces of food. Curious, the grasshopper asked,
"Why are you working so hard on this hot day?" "I'm storing food for the winter. Winter is cold and we have to prepare now,"
said the ant. The grasshopper didn't understand.
"It's still summer. Why do we have to hurry?"
he thought. Time passed quickly. Now it was autumn and all the leaves were falling off the trees. The ant worried about the grasshopper. The ant came up to the grasshopper and said,
"Hey, buddy, Winter will come soon. Why don't you start getting ready?
But the grasshopper kept singing and playing the guitar.
Winter's a long way off,
he said. Soon, the cold winter came. The green meadow turned into a white field of snow. All the food was gone. The grasshopper aimlessly wandered around in search for food. Very hungry and cold, he felt miserable.
Oh, how stupid and lazy I was,
he thought to himself. He regretted not preparing for winter, but it was too late.
Fairy tale.
The City Mouse and the Country Mouse. There once lived a city mouse and a country mouse. One day, the country mouse invited the city mouse to his place. When the country mouse served a meal to the city mouse was disappointed.
Is this it? It is nothing more than a few kernels of corn and grain. If you come to my place in the city, I will give you a great feast,
said the city mouse. The city mouse and country mouse went to the city. When the city mouse served him his meal, the country mouse could not believe his eyes. There was bread, cheese, fruit, and grain. But when the two mice sat down to eat, a cat jumped onto the table. The two mice hurried and hid in a small hole until the cat left. When they were about to eat again, a cook came in. The cook saw them and screamed out, "Ew! Catch the mice!" So the two mice rushed inside the hole again. This happened over and over again. After all of this, the country mouse said,
"Goodbye. I am going home where I can enjoy my simple dinner in peace."
Fairy tale.
The Ugly Duckling. There once was a mother duck. One day, she was waiting for her eggs to hatch. Crack, crack, crack. One by one, all the eggs hatched except one. This egg was larger and browner than the rest. Finally, a large, ugly-looking bird popped out of the egg. The mother duck was very disappointed. The other ducklings made fun of the ugly one.
You look so ugly. Yeah, you are not like us.
The ugly duckling was so sad. One night, the ugly duckling decided to leave and find a new family who might want him. He walked and walked with hope. When he saw a family of different ducks, he said,
"Hello there. You are so ugly. Go away."
All the ducklings said,
Okay, bye.
He had to waddle off again in search of a nicer family. The next day, the ugly duckling came to a pond filled with a family of geese.
Hello there.
You are so ugly. Go away, all the goslings said.
Okay, bye.
Here again, he couldn't stay. With no family, the ugly duckling had to survive the cold winter alone. When spring came, the ugly duckling went into a clear pond and saw a family of the most beautiful birds, swans. He wanted to join them, but didn't dare to ask. Suddenly, a graceful swan came to the ugly duckling.
Oh, how beautiful you are. You have the whitest feathers I have ever seen.
Confused, the ugly duckling looked at his reflection in the water. He was not an ugly duckling at all. He was a beautiful white swan with a long and elegant neck. The swan lived happily with his new swan family. Rapunzel. Once upon a time, there lived a poor husband and wife. The wife got pregnant, but they had nothing to eat. So the husband went to a nearby garden to steal some vegetables. He stole some vegetables from a garden. At that moment, an evil witch appeared.
Who's taking my precious vegetables?
The frightened man asked for forgiveness. The witch said,
In return for food, you must give me the baby when it's born.
When the wife had a beautiful baby girl, the witch took her away. She named her Rapunzel. Rapunzel grew up to be a beautiful girl with long blonde hair. The witch locked Rapunzel in a very tall castle tower. Whenever the witch visited the castle, she shouted,
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Then she could climb up the tower using the hair as a rope. One day, as a prince was passing by the tower, he heard a beautiful voice singing a sad melody. While he was wondering in curiosity, he saw the witch go up. So he did the same. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Reaching the top, the prince was surprised to find a beautiful girl. The two fell in love at first sight. Rapunzel wanted to escape from the castle and marry the prince. But soon, the witch found everything out. Angered, she cut Rapunzel's long hair and sent her far away. Not knowing this, the prince came to the castle again. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. But it was the witch who was waiting for him. When he was almost at the top, she let go of the hair. The prince fell down into a thorn bush and hurt his eyes. He became blind and wandered around the forest, looking for Rapunzel. Finally, they found each other. She shed tears in the prince's eyes. Miraculously, the prince was able to see again. The prince took Rapunzel to his castle and married her. Fairy tale.
The Frog Prince. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful princess. On the princess's birthday, she received a golden ball from her father. She liked the ball so much that she always played with it. One day, she dropped it into a well by accident. She was so sad that she burst out crying. Suddenly, a frog showed up out of nowhere and said,
"Don't cry, princess. I'll get it out for you. In return, you have to be friends with me. Eat and sleep together with me."
The princess agreed because she wanted to get the golden ball back as soon as possible. So, the frog got the golden ball from the bottom of the deep well. The princess was delighted and ran back to the palace with the ball. The next day, the frog came to the palace and said,
"Princess, let me eat with you. You promised."
The princess turned away, but her father scolded her.
If you've made a promise, you must keep it.
Unwillingly, the princess ate and played with the frog. At night, the frog jumped into the princess's bed.
"Please, kiss me goodnight."
The princess hated it, but she kissed the frog's cold, damp cheeks.
I can't stand it any longer.
She threw the frog off the bed. At that moment, a handsome prince appeared out of nowhere. "I am the prince of the neighboring country. I became a frog by an evil witch's spell. Thanks to you, the spell has been broken. Will you marry me?" The princess felt sorry for what she had done, but nodded shyly. They got married and lived happily ever after.
The Prince and the Pauper. Long ago, in a kingdom, there was a son born to a king and queen. He was named Edward. On the same day, a son was born to a very poor family. He was named Tom. Prince Edward was treated very well, with lots of food and clothes. But for Tom, it was the opposite. His father made him beg for food on the streets.
One day, Tom saw a huge palace. He wanted to go in, but the guard stopped him because he was wearing dirty, ragged clothes. You cannot enter this palace. Go away, you little rat. Prince Edward saw this and said,
Why is there screaming?
Your Highness, this pauper boy is trying to enter the palace.
Even though he's a pauper, he's still one of my people.
Prince Edward brought Tom into the palace and gave him some food. He suggested Tom to switch clothes because he wanted to go out. Tom couldn't do anything but agree. Surprisingly, they looked like twins. Prince Edward headed outside of the palace. Tom's father, who thought Prince Edward was Tom, dragged him back to their house. He beat him every day and made him beg for money. Meanwhile, Tom tried to convince the servants that he wasn't Prince Edward. However, no one believed him and thought he was ill. One day, Prince Edward bumped into Knight Hendon. Believing his story, Knight Hendon decided to help him go back to the palace. On that day, the king had died, and Tom was about to be crowned as the new king. When he was receiving the crown, Knight Hendon bursted in with Prince Edward.
Wait! I am the real Prince Edward, not him.
Everyone didn't believe in him, so Tom said,
He is right. He is the real prince.
Prince Edward took out the royal seal to prove that he was the prince. Everyone believed them, and Prince Edward was crowned as the king. Touched by Tom's honesty, he let him become his chief advisor and awarded Knight Hendon. They ruled the country together and lived happily ever after.
Fairy tale.
The Bremen Town Musician. There was an old donkey. His master stopped feeding him because he was weak.
I must go to Bremen. I'm going to become the best musician there.
The donkey found an old hound dog by the road. I'm old now, and I don't have the speed to run anymore. I'm useless.
Come on, come with me to Bremen and make a music band.
The dog followed the donkey. After a while, they met an old cat.
I'm too old to catch mice. I'm useless. Come on, come with us to Bremen and make a music band.
The cat followed the donkey and dog. After a while, this time, they met a chicken.
My owner is going to eat me tomorrow. Come on, come with us to Bremen and make a music band.
So the chicken followed the donkey, dog, and cat. In the forest, they found a cabin. In the cabin, they saw some bandits eating delicious food.
I have a good idea,
said the donkey. The donkey stood first. Then the dog climbed onto the donkey. Then the cat climbed onto the dog. Then the chicken flew onto the cat. They were like a tall monster. 1, 2, 3. Nay! Woof!
Meow. Cock-a-doodle-doo!
The animals screamed all together. The bandits ran away. The animals ate all the food in the cabin. Meanwhile, one of the bandits came back to the cabin. As soon as he entered the cabin, the cat jumped in and scratched his face. The dog bit his legs. The chicken picked onto his hair. Finally, the donkey kicked him with its legs. The bandit ran away screaming, "There must be a monster in the cabin!" The bandits gave up the house in fear and went far away. The animals lived happily ever after, singing and dancing in the cabin.
Fairy tale.
The Happy Prince. In a faraway village, there stood a statue of a young prince. It was made of gold and all kinds of jewelry. People called it Happy Prince because of its beauty and splendor. In winter, a bird seeking shelter landed on the Happy Prince. When it saw the prince crying, it was surprised.
Happy Prince, why are you crying? I am so sad because I can see many poor people from up here. Will you help me help them?
The prince asked the bird to take his ruby to a poor woman. She was taking care of her baby, but there was nothing for them to eat. The bird removed the ruby from the prince's sword and gave it to the woman. The next morning, the prince said to the bird,
There's a poor writer living without food. Will you help me again?
The bird removed the emerald from the prince's eye and gave it to the poor writer. The next day, the prince asked the bird for help once again.
There's a poor girl who dropped all the eggs she had to sell. Will you help me for the last time?
The bird removed the emerald from the prince's other eye and gave it to the poor girl. Though very tired and cold, the bird stayed with the prince. It removed the gold off of the prince's body and continued to help the poor people. The appearance of the prince grew uglier. In time, the bird died, and the ugly statue was thrown into a fire. But the prince's beautiful mind never turned to ashes. Truly, he was a happy prince.
Fairy tale: The Wolf and the 7 Little Goats. 7 baby goats and a mother goat were living happily in a cabin. One day, as the mother goat left the cabin, she told the baby goats, "Do not open the door to anyone." The baby goats answered,
Don't worry, Mother.
After a while, a wolf came to the cabin and knocked on the door.
Kids, your mom's here. Open the door.
But the youngest goat shouted,
Don't open the door. Listen to the harsh voice. It's not Mom.
When the wolf heard this, he knocked on the cabin again with a soft voice.
Kids, your mom's here. Open the door.
The youngest goat shouted,
No. Look at that black feet under the door. It's not Mom.
When the wolf heard this, he poured white flour on its feet.
Kids, your mom's here. Open the door.
Oh, it must be Mom.
The baby goats finally opened the door. The wolf jumped in and swallowed the baby goats one by one. After the wolf left, the mother came back. Then the youngest goat came out of the alarm clock.
Mom, the wolf ate all my brothers.
The mom goat went out looking for the wolf. When she found the wolf sleeping, she cut the wolf's belly open. All the baby goats popped out from the wolf's big belly. She filled the wolf's belly with stones. When the thirsty wolf woke up, it went to a well. As it bowed down to drink the water, splash! It fell into the well. Fairy tale: The Naked King. There was a king who was more interested in clothes than his kingdom. He spent a lot of money and time buying new clothes. One day, 2 young tailors appeared and suggested making the most beautiful clothes for him. But they told him that the clothes were not visible to fools. Over time, the king was very curious about the clothes the tailors made, so he ordered his servants to go and check. One of the servants was surprised to see there weren't any clothes. The servant didn't want to look stupid, so he lied and said that beautiful clothes were being made. The other servants lied as well, using the same reason. Eventually, the king came to check himself, but he could not see any new clothes. He was afraid that the people would think he was a fool. So he just pretended to be satisfied with his new clothes. Of course, the tailors were crooks. The dressed king, actually naked, went out into the streets. In the eyes of everyone, the king was wearing nothing. But they said the king's new clothes were cool. Everyone was afraid they would look stupid otherwise. Then a little boy shouted,
"The king is naked!"
The people and the king realized the truth. The king was embarrassed. Fairy tale. The Red Shoes. A girl named Karen lived with her ill single mother. After her mother passed away, she was adopted by a kind old lady. The old lady gave her money to buy a new pair of black shoes. But Karen bought a pair of luxurious red shoes instead. Karen liked her new shoes so much. She wore them to church and even to a funeral. The old lady said,
"That's very disrespectful. Never do that again, please."
But the next Sunday, Karen wore them again to church.
"I don't care what anyone says. I will wear whatever I want,"
she said. When she was entering the church, a mysterious old soldier appeared. He tapped the shoes, whispering,
"Dance forever, red shoes."
At that moment, Karen's feet started dancing. She continued to dance night and day through fields, woods, and thorny bushes. Karen's legs were badly hurt, and she became exhausted. Desperately, she tried to stop dancing, but she couldn't. Karen found an executioner and asked him to take her shoes off. He did so and made her a pair of wooden crutches. The red shoes disappeared, dancing down the way. She regretted her actions and went back home. Karen never wore the red shoes again. Fairy tale.
The Pied Piper of Hamelin. A long time ago, there was a small city named Hamelin in Germany. Unfortunately, the city was infested with rats. The rats ate up people's food and bit babies in their cradles. The people released cats to kill the rats. But the rats even threatened the cats. Then, One day, a mysterious man with a pipe in his hand showed up and came to the mayor.
I'll get rid of the rats. When I do, give me a lot of money.
Of course I will. Just as long as you get rid of the rats,
the mayor promised. Standing in the city square, the man began to play the pipe. Magically, rats from all over the city began to follow him. Playing the pipe, he went to the river and entered the water. All the rats also went into the water after him. Eventually, the rats all drowned. People watching this were amazed and cheered.
Give me the reward as you promised,
the piper said. But the mayor changed his mind.
All you did was just play some tunes. I can't give you the money.
The piper was very angry.
You'll regret not keeping your promise.
After a while, the piper came back and began to play the pipe again. This time, children gathered one by one and all followed the mysterious sound. While playing the pipe, he entered a large cave in the deep forest with all the children following. And after that day, no one heard from the children again.
Fairy tale. The Gingerbread Man. Once upon a time, an old woman decided to make a special gingerbread cookie. She cut the dough into a boy shape and decorated it. Eyes with chocolate, mouth with frosting, and buttons with raisins. She put it in the oven. After some time, she opened the oven door and pop! The gingerbread man jumped out and started running.
Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Gingerbread Man. Oh, stop there, Gingerbread Man.
She started chasing the gingerbread man. A cow saw the gingerbread man running. It said,
Stop there, Gingerbread Man. I want to eat you.
Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Gingerbread Man.
The old woman and cow chased after the gingerbread man. A pig saw the gingerbread man running. It said,
Stop there, Gingerbread Man. I want to eat you.
Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Gingerbread Man.
The old woman, cow, and pig chased after the gingerbread man. A a chicken saw the gingerbread man running. It said,
Stop there, Gingerbread Man. I want to eat you.
Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Gingerbread Man.
The old woman, cow, pig, and chicken chased after the gingerbread man. Finally, the gingerbread man reached the wide river. This time, a fox appeared and said,
I'll help you cross the river. Get on my tail.
The gingerbread man rode on the tail. As the river got deeper, the fox said,
Come up to my back. There's no water on it.
The gingerbread man hopped onto the back. As the water got deeper and deeper, the fox said,
Come up on my head. There's no water on it.
The gingerbread man hopped onto the head. When its head got wet, the fox said,
Come up to my nose. There's no water up there.
And as soon as the gingerbread man got up his nose, the fox flipped the gingerbread man and threw it up into the sky. The gingerbread man fell right into the fox's mouth. 5 peas in a pod. There were 5 peas in a green pod. Their world was all green and cozy. As time went by, the pod became too small for the peas to live in.
I want to get out of here. How big is the world outside?
The 5th pea thought to himself,
I want to be helpful to this world. What can I do?
Pop! The pod finally burst. A boy picked up the 5 peas. He shot the peas far away with his slingshot.
Yahoo! I'm flying to the farthest place in the world.
The 1st pea shouted.
I'm going to fly to the sun,
cried the 2nd pea. The 3rd and 4th pea said,
We just want to sleep anywhere.
The 5th pea just thought to himself,
I just wish I could do anything helpful to the world.
The 5th pea flew far away and landed in front of an attic window. Inside the attic lived a poor mother and sick girl. One day, the girl saw the green pea sprouting by the window.
What's that?
It must be a pea sprout.
Oh, it's so beautiful. How can a pea sprout from this small crack?
Day after day, the sick girl watched the pea grow. The pea opened its leaves and buds, and the girl looking at it got healthier.
Mom, I think I'm getting well.
Oh, this green pea must be very special. When the flowers bloomed, the girl finally recovered from the illness. The fifth pea's wish came true. Fairy tale.
A dog of Flanders.
Far away in a small village, a boy named Nello lived with his grandfather. Nello's grandfather worked hard as a milkman. They were poor but loved each other. One day, Nello and his grandfather found an abandoned dog. They took good care of it. Nello called it Patrash. Nello also had a kind girlfriend, Alois. Yet, Alois's father hated Nello, so he told Alois not to play with him. Nello's grandfather became ill and was unable to work. Nello had to work as a milkman instead of his grandfather. It was hard, but he did his best. Nello was very good at drawing and always loved it. He dreamed of becoming a great painter like Rubens someday. He tried to win a prize at a local art exhibition, but he failed. His grandfather finally passed away. Nello was kicked out of his house. He couldn't even take care of Patrash anymore. So Nello left Patrash to Alois, but Patrash fled Alois's house and ran back to Nello. Nello was happy to see Patrash, but they were so cold and hungry. Eventually, they fell to their death in front of a great painting by Rubens. Fairy tale.
Hans in luck. Hans was an ordinary little man who worked for his master for 7 years. One day, he said, "Master, I must leave to see my mother. Please give me my 7 years' wages." The master gave him a big piece of gold. Hans happily started his way. But as he walked and walked, the gold felt very heavy. Just then, he saw a horseman riding his horse on the road. Hans wanted to ride the horse. The horseman said, "Young man, why are you walking? If you give me the gold, I will give you my horse." Hans immediately exchanged the gold for the horse. "Yes, how lucky am I! I'm so happy!" As soon as Hans rode the horse, it suddenly started galloping madly. "Oh my gosh! Stop it!" A shepherd with a cow stopped the horse. Hans said, "You're so lucky. Your cow isn't crazy like my horse. Also, it gives you milk and butter." The shepherd said, "If you give me your horse, I will give you my cow." Hans immediately exchanged the horse for the cow. Yes! How lucky am I! I'm so happy! Just like this, Hans exchanged the cow for a pig, and the pig for a goose. When Hans was carrying the goose on the road, he spotted a grinder singing. The grinder said, "Do you want to be happy like me? If you give me the goose for this grindstone, you will become a rich man. You will truly be the happiest." At last, Hans exchanged his goose for a grindstone. Yes! How lucky am I! I'm so happy! After a little while, he accidentally dropped the grindstone into a well. However, Hans was still happy, because then he didn't have anything to carry. No one here is as lucky as I am. I am the happiest man. With a light heart, Hans ran back home to his mother.